gotten from him as you approach the deadline?
Well, the biggest thing is I'm not going to discuss any of that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on throughout the league, and once we get past tomorrow, we'll probably have something to talk about.
So when you look back at yesterday first, I guess Sam's game in particular, what are some of the things that stood out to you most?
Well, I think one of the things that's coming into the game, I thought game plan was really good for the things that they do and how we wanted to approach it. And then I thought they, for the most part, executed the way we needed to. You know, Sam got the ball out quickly, a lot of good decisions as far as those things were concerned. It's really good route running. I thought the protection was outstanding. You know, we had a couple of little glitches, and unfortunately that we did give up one sack. That was a tough one too, just because of the situation. But for the most part, I thought his decision making was good. I thought his delivery was where it needed to be. He was close a couple of times on a couple of really nice shots that were downfield. I liked the fact that he chose to take a couple of shots too. That was good. But the ball placement on some of the touchdown passes were outstanding. And, you know, again, his command out there was really good. You know, he checked a couple times, made some good decisions on those as well, and did a really nice job of getting the ball out of his hand on those decisions as well.
I won't ask you about any players or anything specific, but I think one thing that's everybody's fascinated by is, you know, you do have the two hats and how you approach this. You do have all these 9 games left, and there is this moment in time where it's a pretty critical moment. How do you process that for you? Like, how has it changed? Has it changed like your daily schedule or what you're thinking about more and more because the deadline is here?
Like I said, once we get past Tuesday, we'll probably have some answers to those questions for you.
Okay. Then to the game itself and the replay situation, you talked about it a little bit after the game. What we may have asked you at some point during your time here, but what's the process that you guys have in place? You know, who's up in the booth? Who are you talking to?
Well, up in the booth, you know, obviously what we're hoping to get is a look. Okay, we'd love to see the replay and love to see it out there quickly. What you don't want to do is get into a situation where we were in, and that is we didn't get a chance to get a look. If you throw the flag and you're wrong, you lose it. And so we're trying to decide. We know how important having the challenges are. We know how important having the timeouts are out. And when, you know, there's really nothing that's definitive, it's hard to make that decision appropriately.
And just, who's in your ear in that time?
We have people upstairs that are in my ear.
Okay, got it.
Kind of generically, in your kind of experiences, when you're thinking about making a move or a trade, what factors do you look into? Like, what are you balancing? What are you looking at?
Well, as I said, we'll discuss those things once we get past Tuesday.
Okay. You've said this phrase a couple of times. You are what your record says you are.
Absolutely.
Right now you're 3-5. Taking the glass half full approach, what gives you optimism about this team in the coming weeks here?
Well, first of all, I think the play of the quarterback. It's something that we've talked about. And I think when you start seeing the production that he's having, it's now time for us to go out and do the things that we're capable of. And I think we're more than capable. I really do. But, again, we haven't shown it. And that's something that we as coaches have got to make sure we're giving these guys every opportunity to be successful. And then if that's the case, we got to go out and make sure we're executing properly.
If you've had a chance to go back and look at the film with Emanuel, I know you only had a handful of snaps, but did you see improvement in the technique things that you've talked about? Or
we did for the most part, but the hard part obviously was, you know, there was the touchdown throw. I mean, we have some questions that we'd like to get answered about, you know, the particular play, but, you know, he's working at it, he's getting better, and he's just got to continue to work.
And hypothetically, if you only had 3 of your 4 current starting defensive linemen next weekend, who would step up for that missing 4th piece, hypothetically?
Hypothetically, once we get there, I'll give you an answer.
What do you attribute to having a good game plan going into this week? It seemed like you guys did a lot of things you thought you could do well at the beginning of the season. Why was this week different?
I think because we were able to get out and execute it. I think one of the big things that really stood out was the protections. I thought Tyler did a really nice job of setting the protections. I thought one of the things that really went well, Paul got his opportunity, and he was very stout at the point. He really was. Both he and Tyler, I thought, really held the point very nicely. What that allowed was it allowed for Sam to hitch up and step into the throws. And those, I think, you really see on the velocity of the ball that he threw and the windows he threw the ball into. I mean, they were very well delivered.
And obviously, you're going to change it up by opponent. But do you see what you guys did Sunday as a template for how this offense can succeed moving
absolutely.
forward?
That's what I've always seen. I've always thought that's where we're headed. And a lot of it comes from just, like I told you guys when I was trying to decide where we wanted to go with a coordinator, looking at things that they were doing in Kansas City during their playoff run. And that is what really kind of led me in that direction. And yesterday was a good example of it. We saw it the first time we played Philadelphia. We saw it in moments of other games. But we've got to get consistent there. And again, you've got to play complementary football. And you've got to play complementary offense, defense, and special teams in terms of each one of those groups. Defensively, it's got to be complementary in terms of stopping the run and the pass. And the pass rush has to complement each other with the coverage and stuff like that, and so on for offense, defense, and special teams as well. So that's what we're working towards is being consistent and complementary.
Coach, is there any updates or thoughts on Curtis Samuel and his status moving forward?
Just for the most part, he was examined this morning, and the biggest thing they talked about was his foot soreness. They're gonna have him examined further and treat him further, and hopefully it'll subside and settle down a little bit. But yeah, Curtis started off really strong for us yesterday.
And then with Sam later in the game, it looked like passes were getting a little bit less accurate. He got hit in the shoulder earlier in the game, but then also a lot of throws. Were either of those things fatigue or getting hit earlier?
Oh no, I don't think any of those were fatigue. You go and look, and a couple of them were a little bit right or left. And again, I just think that's part of the throw. Ricky went to go get an MRI, so we'll wait on those results.
With the secondary, you've had miscommunications
Yeah.
or blown coverages. I guess is there a common thread? What's going on with those?
No, that more than anything else is just making sure it gets communicated. That one was one that we shouldn't have missed. We really shouldn't have. And again, we just got to make sure we get it out there in plenty of time, which I felt we did. But again, there's a communication that has to be connected.
When you see the play when A.J. Brown catches the touchdown pass on Emanuel and Juan Martin, when you see that, is it surprising, I guess, on some level that you have the two kids who haven't been playing a lot in the last few weeks end up in that spot against that guy who's probably the best receiver in football right now?
Yeah, that's going to happen. They're going to move their people around and put them in position. I mean, you can't hide people in this league. They'll find you, and when they do, you'd love to have some sort of double coverage. And again, you've got to take your hat off to, like you said, probably the guy playing the best in the NFL right now as a receiver.
Just curious what you can do at this point in the season, given some weeks the offense seems like it shows up and has a good game, defense falters a little bit. Last week, defense showed up pretty well, offense had a rough day. I mean, what can you do after week 8 to sort of figure out how to streamline and just how to make the entire team
right.
work
With
together?
with 10 more weeks left to play, we're going to take each week one at a time. I know I've said it and sound like a broken record, but that's the truth of the matter. We'll continue to work and try and get us to play complementary football. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, it's just you continue to grow and work and develop, and as it goes, we'll see how it goes.
How would you assess how the D-line has played this year?
I think D-line has had its moments. I mean, yesterday we held one of the top rushing teams in the league to only 59 yards. And so that starts up front. We got good pressure on the quarterback. We could have used a little bit more, obviously, especially in certain situations. So, they've definitely have played solid at times, and they've had their moments. And we've just got to be consistent more so than anything else.
I was going to ask you, do you feel like they've played to the level that you had anticipated?
Not consistently enough, and again, you see it, but you've got to see it all the time, and that's really the mark of it when it really comes together, is that it's consistent. But see, that's where it goes back to just being complimentary and again, just understanding certain elements of what's going on and what the situation is, what situational football is, and trying understanding and marrying, what the front and coverage is, and sometimes understanding why those coverages are being called, why those fronts are being called, why those stunts or pressures. you know, I think again, just having a good feel and understanding for overall for what we're doing really helps.
Going on to week 8 here, and you have the late bye, right? So it's always a grind from training camp to as you go through this. There's that physical aspect, the bumps and bruises, but the mental aspect. How's this team holding up in terms of the mental fortitude, mental strength? What have you seen from that
Well, I
locker room?
thought yesterday, you know, they came out with the right mindset. You know, we know them, they know us. It's always been a challenge. It's always been a struggle and a battle. I mean, you could argue that in the last 3 games that we've played against them, you know, we've probably been the one team that's given them a hard time. And so I think that's something to build on. Again, you know, I'm not looking for a moral victory, but I'm looking for something to build off of. And that's the kind of game that, you know, you point to certain things offensively, defensively, and special teams, and you say, see, that's what we're capable of. I mean, you know, if you point to some of the things that we did defensively, getting the ball, you know, taking the ball away in critical situations, you know, offensively scoring when you had to score. I mean, getting into the red zone and you know, and converting, getting goal to goal and converting, that's big. Being over 50% on third down as an offense was big. Special teams wise, you know, we were 4 for 4 on extra points, and we hit a 61-yarder just before the half, 2-minute drive to give ourselves a chance to, you know, go in at halftime with the lead. So there's all these things that you can point to and say, this is what you want, but let's be consistent. That's what we have to get to now.
All right, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys.